video, I want to talk to you about quality. That is going to be the focus of the course. Quality is something that we really need to focus on when sourcing hair from overseas. The process is a detailed process, and most people fail to understand that quality is the most important aspect of the process. Okay, so I'm starting off slow. Some of you may already know these terms, but I want to talk to you about different terms that we are going to use instead of the beauty supply store terms that I spoke about in my last video. As I said in my last video, most people who in the past purchased hair from overseas, when you purchase hair from the beauty supply store, you use certain terms. You use certain terms to signify the type of color you needed, 1B30, 1B27, and all those terms for color do not apply when we look for hair from these overseas vendors. Most of the hair from the vendors are going to be of a dark color. They're going to be either jet black or a really, really dark brown, because most of the indigenous people of Asia have that tone to their hair. It's going to be a dark colored hair. So when we transition in the other modules of this course, I will reiterate that because most hair that is of quality has not been processed for color. We want hair that has been minimally processed to sell to our customers. That is the goal of this course, okay? That does not mean that you can't sell colored hair, but most people, when they're purchasing hair, bundled hair, for example, they would like to be able to have the flexibility of coloring it themselves. When you purchase hair that is already colored and dyed from a manufacturer, the customer may be a little dissatisfied with the products, okay? If you've watched any other YouTube videos of people styling hair or installing hair, you notice that they will talk about bleaching knots, or they'll talk about coloring their bundles. If you purchase hair that has been previously dyed by a manufacturer, your customer cannot do that, okay? You will have possibly dissatisfied customers if you are selling hair that you claim to have a natural color, or if you are claiming to sell hair that is virgin or raw or unprocessed. Your customer will be upset if they go to take their hair to the stylist and try to bleach the hair or bleach the knots. And we'll talk about those terms if you're unfamiliar with those terms. I'll talk about them in a later video. But you want to focus on hair that has not been previously dyed. So those terms of the 1B30, put that off to the side, okay? Also, because we're going to focus on quality when we're sourcing hair, we are going to use terms like virgin, and it signifies what it means. Virgin means that the hair has not been processed, dyed, it has not been altered in any way. Now, later on in this video, I will speak on what virgin can mean, and in some ways there's various connotations when it comes to the word virgin. It's a little complicated, and I'm going to try to break it down the best of my ability. But that's going to be the main focus when we go searching for vendors. Virgin signifies quality, okay? We're focusing on quality. Another term that we want to focus on is the cuticles. Cuticle alignment, or the cuticles are intact and are they going in the same direction. That is a very important part of sourcing hair from overseas. As I stated about the color, most customers, when they purchase hair that's in bundled form, they also expect the hair to not tangle. When they purchase a closure and frontal, they expect the hair to not tangle, okay? That is what Remy, I'm sure you've heard of the term Remy. That's what Remy means, okay? But I want you to focus on cuticles instead of the term Remy. Remy would still be in the realm of beauty supply store, Okay, typically the term Remy is supposed to mean cuticle alignment, but in this module I don't want you to really focus on Remy as much. I really want you to focus on the cuticles, because that's what really matters. At the end of the day, we want to focus on the cuticles and if they're aligned. Okay, also, when you, in the past, if you purchased hair from the beauty supply store, you may have heard of, oh, this hair is tangle free. That's what cuticle alignment means. Okay, so we're not going to use a term from the beauty supply store, tangle free. We're going to use terms like cuticle aligned. The strands of the hair have a outside covering. Microscopically, if you take a microscope and you zoom in on the strand of hair, you will see scales. The scales should all go in the same direction. Okay, when they don't go in the same direction, they rub up against each other and they create what we call tangling. Now keep in mind, all hair tangles, but when I say tangling, I mean excessive tangling. When your customer purchases hair from you, they don't want excessive tangling. Okay, excessive tangling leads to matting. There's no conditioner in the world that will remedy that. So that's something that we want to focus on as well. Quality hair. Okay, so we're going to use terms like virgin. We're going to use terms cuticle aligned or cuticle intact. Later on in my videos and in this module, we will get really down to detail about the specific terms that are available as well. Now, also, I want to talk about, aside from color and cuticle alignment, something that goes into the realm of cuticle alignment is single donor. Now, I'm sure you've seen hair harvesting videos. If you have not seen hair harvesting videos, just do a simple Google search on how the hair is harvested. Now, there's various different types of companies. There's Indian companies, there's Chinese companies, and there are Southeast Asian companies. They all pretty much harvest the hair about the same. Okay, you've seen videos where people, especially from India, their heads are getting shaved. You've seen people who have their hair bundled up in a bunch of like a rubber band and then it's cut off. That is true single donor hair. When the hair has been bunched up together and cut off at the back of the nape of the neck, that will signify that the cuticles are aligned and that the cuticles are intact and they're all going in the same direction. So that's what single donor means. That's what, when people say single donor, that's what they mean. Now, I want you to also put aside the whole mentality that certain origins are better than others. The issue comes when people think that one company or one origin, like say Indian hair is better than Chinese hair, or Vietnamese hair is better than Chinese hair, or vice versa. It comes down to texture, and I'll get into that later as well. But some customers have an aversion to closures and frontals. They may not like frontals, they may not like closures, and they may want a texture of hair that readily blends with their natural hair. Now, if you have customers who are relaxed, or potential customers who are relaxed, because Chinese hair tends to be coarser, that hair also is a more, it's a stronger type of hair strand. It can withstand different types of processing. Now, I know I just talked about raw and virgin. Well, I'll talk about raw in a minute as well. But some of the hair that you may want to source has already been processed, and that's okay. And I'll get into that in a minute. But if your customers love like a certain type of texture that's finer texture, you have customers who want to leave out their hair and they have a more looser wave pattern, and their hair isn't like a 4C and it's more of like a 2 or a 3, Indian hair would probably blend, get tongue tied, will blend better with that texture of hair. So it goes down to texture. It doesn't go into origin. So when we go to these different websites, you may want to source from various different companies, or you may want to stick with a different company based on your preferences of your customers, or you may want to source from all three regions. It's up to you when you go when we go on the websites, and I'll break that down a little bit further. But you can get quality hair from all different types of regions of Asia. Okay, So this is the thing, the term raw. The term raw means that the hair has not um, been washed or anything. Raw means raw. Raw means what it signifies as raw. Now we have to keep in mind that some of these terms like raw and virgin are kind of being used in the incorrect way. That's the reason why I do this course, is because I want us to get to the point where I can show you different tactics and how to get past dishonest vendors who are not truly selling raw and who are not truly selling virgin hair. But that's what raw really means. Okay, raw is not a catchphrase. Raw means that the hair has not been washed, conditioned in any way. Okay, just because it's raw, however, does not mean the cuticles are aligned. Okay, so I want us to focus on cuticle alignment versus raw. Most of you are just starting out in this process and you really don't know what your customer wants. I want you to understand that some customers, they may ask for that and they don't know what they're asking for. Okay, so I don't want to focus on sourcing hair that your customers may not even want. One thing about raw is truly raw hair requires you to process the hair, meaning you have to wash it, you have to condition it. And if you are up for that challenge, you can source that kind of hair, but you will have to do that before you sell it to your customer, because your customer expects the hair to be ready to wear, essentially. Now, most customers will wash and condition the hair before they install it, but as a hairstylist, I'll tell you, some of them don't. So we are really going to get down to a lot of the misinformation that's out there on the market as well. But I want to focus in this video on quality. I want you to leave some of your preconceived notions off to the side so that we can successfully find vendor contacts in this journey, okay? So like I said, we're going to focus on virgin. We're going to focus on cuticle alignment, cuticles being intact. We also want to focus on natural color. Okay, we're not requesting 1B, 99J, 613. We're not requesting those types of colors. Now, if you do want to sell pre-colored hair, there are vendors that sell that. But I would really want you to understand that the propensity for it to tangle is higher because it's been highly processed. Okay, now as far as, and we also talked about single donor. Single donor means it's coming from one person. Now, when you go into the process realm, I want you to also understand that processing does not mean bad, okay? Processing, you can still get cuticle aligned hair that has been processed, meaning most manufacturers that sell cuticle aligned hair, they will also process the hair to mimic different wave patterns. I want you to understand that a lot of Asian countries, the people who are indigenous to Asia, do not have body wave or kinky curly textured hair. That hair has been processed to look that way, and that's fine. Most of the hair that we wear as women and men, we have had processed hair in our heads before. That does not mean that it's bad. They can process the hair and still keep the cuticles intact, okay? So if you want to sell hair to a lot of different types of clientele, you can still sell hair that has been pre-processed. There's nothing wrong with that. You can also, if you want to sell completely raw hair, you can do that as well. And I'll show you how to source hair from both sides of the processing realm. Minimally processed on up to hair that has been processed to look a particular certain curl pattern. Can be sourced from overseas vendors. But I also want you to understand that if you really want truly raw hair, it's not going to look like a perfectly spiraled wave pattern. That's not what raw hair looks like. You will see a lot of companies selling raw hair and they are using the terms incorrectly. Okay, in this course I will show you how to navigate through that. Okay, so I want you to focus on quality. That's what we're talking about in this video. Okay, so there's various different opinions about quality, but if you are going to sell hair, your customer does not want the hair to matte. They do not want the hair to excessively shed. Okay, that goes into the wefting construction. We'll talk about that as well. Also, you want to focus on, when we go to talk about closures and frontals, you want to focus on closures and frontals that are also using quality hair, and they are also using ventilation processes that will cause the lace products to stand the test of time. Okay, most people who are installing their products from you, they will keep it in for a month or two. Okay, most people who get sewing weaves and who make wigs, they're going to keep the products for at least a month. So we are going to source hair that will withstand wear and tear, daily wearing. Okay, some of you may have clientele that don't mind that, but the majority of clients of of purchasers of bundles, frontals and closures, they want the hair to last for a while. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on in this course. All right, so I keep reiterating that because when we go on over to the websites, we are not going to focus on things of the past, of the beauty supply store. Okay, now I also mentioned in my previous video that the majority of people who purchase hair from the beauty supply store will purchase hair in pack form. When we go to the websites, we are not going to use terms, we're not going to search for packs of hair. When you source hair from overseas, the hair will come in a bundle or it will come in zip ties. That's it. And it'll come in simple, clear packaging. Now, when you are getting your vendor contacts through this course, you also can get vendor contacts that will send you packaging. You've seen the pretty bundle packaging and all the tags and stuff like that. That will be purchased separately from the hair. The hair does not come in a pretty packaging that you've seen in the beauty supply store. Actually, manufacturers who manufacture beauty supply store quality hair, they also have companies to do the same thing. So no matter the quality, they are still having companies manufacture their own private labeling. That's what it's going to be called, private labeling. You are private labeling your hair that you will sell. Now, there's different levels to that. You can have fancy packaging and you can have simple packaging. We will not talk about packaging in this course. The focus is going to be getting vendor contacts from overseas, and that's the focus in this course. Now, when you get the hair, okay, the hair will come to you in packaging that's just basic packaging. Okay, the hair will come in bundled form or in zip ties. I want you to understand that. Most of you have gone to Alibaba.com and you've seen that. Okay, most of you already have probably seen some of the process or have already gone through the process based on some of your assessments. I've gathered that some of you have already tried to source vendors and have been unsuccessful. Okay, and that's okay. That's why you're here. The thing I really want to also reiterate is that when you get the hair, especially from Indian vendors, sometimes you may experience split ends. That is okay. Okay, when you get donor hair, the hair is coming from a person. Okay, so they may have split ends. Now, that's okay. You could either clip them off or, let your customer know that. Now, we're not going to focus on the split ends, but we are going to focus on the quality of the hair and the quality of the types of vendors that possibly could provide hair to you. But I noticed that some people will say, oh, I got hair that has split ends or it had gray hair. That does not signify that it's bad hair. There's pros and cons to dealing with different origins, okay? You may have heard in the past that some people have gotten lice in their hair. That is a pro or con. Some people don't mind. I don't mind that because I know that that is part of the process. But for some people, that could be a con. So if you're sourcing hair, raw hair, that might not be the hair that you want to source, okay? Lice is part of the hair purchasing industry. That is part of it. Now, when I've sourced hair from China, I have not seen lice in the hair. I'm not swaying you towards one vendor or not, or from the other. But I just want to let you know that is part of the process. Now, it's not something that is alive. It's not something that's disgusting. I'm assuming that if you were watching my videos, you already know that. But for those of you who have heard horror stories, that is not something that will impede on you being successful in this industry. Okay, but I hear a lot of people want raw hair. That's a con of dealing in the raw hair realm. So I want you to understand that as well. That does not mean that the hair is of poor quality. Some of the most beautiful hair that I've seen had what it is knit casings. It's not the actual lices. They are knit casings. You may see that when you get hair from your vendor, especially when, like I said, if you want to dabble in the raw hair realm, that's something that can happen. Okay. Now, when you are sourcing hair and you're contacting vendors and going through that whole process, I want you to also keep in mind that using beauty supply store terms will get you beauty supply store quality hair. Okay, so when you contact a vendor, you will not say you want yaki textured hair. Okay, now you can have hair manufactured into a yaki texture, but you want to make sure that that vendor can produce hair that is tangle free, aka cuticle aligns. Okay, so we're going to focus on the basics, and then we're going to go on out into the realm of processed hair as well, because the majority of your customers probably want processed hair, and be honest, but they want hair that has not been tangled. Now, that does not tangle. Now, these terms that I'm using, cuticle alignment specifically, customers don't care about that. Okay, the terms that I'm using with you are terms that you as the business owner need to know. Okay, when you sell your hair, you can use the terms tangle free. When you find a vendor that is selling cuticle aligned hair, you can use the term tangle free. Okay, when you communicate with your customers, you can use the term 1B if you know what those terms mean. I would suggest if you're not familiar with the color scale of the beauty supply store, you don't have to use that. But for those of you who are familiar, if your customer says, "Hey, I want a 1B," or a one is jet black, you can tell your customer, "Oh yes, I have a jet black, I have an off brown," or what have you. But when you start selling hair to your customers, you will just simply say this hair has been unprocessed. It will be, if you want to color it, you can. If it does not meet your color, your if it's not dark enough, you can put a color on it, you can dye it or what have you. Most customers who are purchasing quality hair, they understand that, they're prepared for the process. Most customers who want to go through all that, they will send it to their stylist to have their stylist do that. So that's not something that you will have to worry about when you're purchasing hair from a vendor, unless you're a stylist yourself and that's a service you want to offer. That's between you and your customers. But for those of you who are just looking to sell hair, you don't have to worry about dyeing the hair and things like that. Most customers who purchase bundled hair, they already understand that. Okay, so that's what we want to focus on. We want to focus on quality. We're going to focus on cuticle alignment. We're going to focus on virgin hair. We're going to focus on raw hair if that's what you're interested in. That is what your focus should be. Of course, we're going to use other terms, but I want you initially to understand that for those of you who are used to ordering or purchasing pack hair from the beauty supply store, that is not what we are going to purchase, and those are not the terms we're going to use when we are purchasing hair, because we have to change our mindset. Remember when I talked about mindset? We have to change our mindset from the consumer on over to the business owner. Okay, so this is what we are going to focus on when sourcing hair from our vendors. Okay, all right, so what I want you to do is keep that in the front. Okay, the terms that I'm using, I want you to keep that close to you, because when we go to the websites, I keep reiterating that, because like myself, I was used to ordering pack hair or purchasing pack hair from beauty supply store, so that was the hardest process of getting over that to get on over to being the business owner who is sourcing hair from overseas. Now, the thing about pack hair, most bundled hair comes in grams. That's usually 100 grams, and I'll talk about the measurements and things like that. So you will not say, "I want a pack of hair." You say you want 100 grams, or some bundles are heavier than that. They weigh more than that, but that's going to be the starting point. When we are purchasing frontals and closures as well, you would use terms like piece, Piece. That's what we would use versus saying that you want a pack of this hair and a pack of that hair, just to let you know that. So again, focus on quality. That's going to be the focus of this whole module, is quality. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video.